going great. I'm excited to talk to you. I think this has been a great series that you've been putting together, and I'm glad to have my turn at it. So,
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited for our conversation, especially coming off the back of Sean's, who has so much experience in this specific industry in the food service design space, and then kind of getting a new perspective. I'm really intrigued to have a conversation with you. Now, I've done a ton of research, but I would love for you to kind of explain your professional experience and what brought you here today.
well, you started right off the bat with Sean, and Sean is certainly a major reason why I'm here at Ricca. My background certainly is as a trained chef. I, went to culinary school, worked in restaurants all over the country, both in Michigan. I really got my start in Chicago, working at restaurants like Blackbird and Bong, and then
Mm,
Northern Michigan, and then came out to Colorado, honestly, as really a lifestyle choice. I wanted to cook and
mm.
live in this beautiful place. And I actually met Tom Ricca, our founder, and then Sean about 15 years ago. I was doing some,
Wow.
yeah, I was doing some work on believe it or not, consulting on what they called back then a Starwood property. It was going to
Mm,
be a couple Westin hotel, and that's the first time that I actually met them. And then, when I started with our group, which inevitably became Edible Beats, when I started with that
mhm.
group, there was just one restaurant. It was Root Down, and then opened to Linger. And as we grew, and we grew very rapidly, I knew early on that we needed to work with a company like Ricca. So
Hmm.
immediately reached out to Sean, and started. He helped us with a few of our restaurants, and so I have that distinction of both being a client and a employee with Ricca. So
Yeah,
so
interesting.
yeah, so I've seen it on both sides.
What does that look like, or what did that initial interaction look like from your side, being the culinary director of Edible Beats? Um, what did that interaction with Ricka look like? Why did you initially decide to bring them on? What were kind of the results of that from the
Uh,
user side?
Yeah, we had liked to do a lot of things on our own, Justin, the owner, and myself and the team. But again, as we got into bigger kitchens, more complexity, and I would say once we started getting into L5, where we really wanted to bring some special touches to the restaurant and to some of the
Hmm.
cuisine, it seemed like it would be a great idea to bring on an expert. And I had such a great relationship and interaction working with both Sean and Tom. And
Hmm.
we just all really loved the whole process of sitting down, looking at plans, researching equipment, and doing that. So early on in the stage, I knew that this was something that I liked to do, and
Hmm.
didn't know at the time that maybe this could be a path moving forward, but knew that I loved it right off the bat. And we benefited so greatly again from having Ricca on, both from our bar programs and from our kitchens to
Mm.
again, you think you know what you're doing from the chef side, you know where you want things, but you really need it properly coordinated to make it a well functioning kitchen. So.
Yeah, could you give like an example of maybe something that Ricka introduced, if you can recall, but something that Ricka introduced that maybe your chef brain didn't quite think of initially?
Well, certainly, just that attention to flow and making sure that
Mm,
uh, you know the pathway of goods and services is always moving the right way, because in the restaurant industry and food service, you really are dealing with pennies, seconds, and inches. And
yeah.
when ticket times are imperative and food quality is because a guest has a bad experience, and they might not ever come back, and that they're
Hmm.
also gonna tell 10 people. So I think really coordinating how the flow of the kitchen worked, and then just
Mm,
really getting in when we wanted to do, we really initially wanted to do something pretty crazy with this large paella burning
mm-hmm.
oven. And, we just had no idea. We were in over our heads with what that would look like. And, we definitely needed somebody like Sean to help us navigate that.
Yeah, I think a conversation we've had before. And this transition from chef to food service design, I'm curious to learn more about how like you personally handled that. What did like going from serving cocktails on Christmas Eve to having a more 9 to 5.
Mhm.
I think a lot of chefs aren't aware that this industry is out there. And if they are, that maybe they don't see the through path from being a chef to food service design. What was that transition like for you?
Yeah, great question, and something that I get asked a lot. I get asked all the time. So do you miss, do you miss the kitchens? Do you miss
Yeah.
working with food? And certainly, I had a great run in my culinary career. I've met so many amazing people and so many great relationships. And of course, cuisine is always at the core of what I think about. I still
Mm,
think about food all the time, whether I'm making food for my family or just out. So that part of it will never leave me.
mm-hmm.
I think what I would say is we always talk about in our firm that there's really no school for what we do. There's no
Yes.
degree that you can get to become a food service design consultant. And so we all come from different backgrounds, and certainly having the culinary background, the operations background was really important, and it translates in so many different ways. I think it brings a lot of confidence when you're talking to, especially chefs and in the culinary teams of these projects, when you're able to speak certain lingos and
Mm-hmm.
really have walked a mile in their shoes. I think that uh, creates a great bond and a trust when you're going into the projects. And something that I think about a lot is that I'm still am affecting, the guest experience. I'm still being
Yes.
able to impact the daily lives of people who work in those kitchens, which was something when I, was in the restaurants and kitchens that I took so much pride in doing is building teams and affecting the lives of others. So,
Mm,
creating a great space that's nice to work in and has a great flow and good feel to it is something that's super important. And then, of course, from the chef side, we're giving them every tool that they need to make delicious food and to
yeah.
serve lots of people and do it in a timely manner and hopefully at the end of the day make money. So
Yeah, I think it all comes back to the bottom line, and I think that's where a lot of food service design consultants are brought in is to really improve the flow to affect that bottom line.
yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody knows, realizes very quickly when they're working in a space that isn't functioning well, and it's
Mm,
it's surprising, some of the spaces that you see and um, some of the mistakes that have been made. So again, I take all of my past kitchen experiences, some of the good kitchens and some of the bad, and try to bring that forward to again making really logical choices and
mm,
getting that feedback, from the clients that we're working with and the end users, so that they're ultimately happy with what they're going to be working in because
mm-hmm.
day to day they're the folks that have to be working in those kitchens. So
Well, we talked a lot about what you've brought over as a chef to your food
mhm.
service design. Is there maybe a project or an example that you can give us that your chef brain was twinging that ended up affecting the result of the end product of that project?
Well, I have been fortunate to work with a lot of great chefs so far, and I think a lot about it. Hasn't opened quite yet, but
Mm,
it will be opening in 2025. I think a lot about our project at the Joseph Smith building that was a huge
mm-hmm.
renovation, multi levels, lots of different programming needs that this space has with different food service outlets and being able to coordinate that and really work hand in hand, not just with the design team, but also, working with the chef directly and intimately about, how we can essentially accomplish everything that they need to do out of this space and do it at a
Mm-hmm.
high level. And seeing that, kind of one of my first projects come to fruition and being
Mm.
built is both terrifying and amazing all at the same time.
Yeah,
So
I can understand that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I was doing a little research and I did find this article from October 18th, 2016. It's on you bringing crickets to the menu
Uh,
at Linger.
yep.
And what you said about your time working there and specifically bringing crickets and bugs to the menu at Linger, it's been a real learning curve for us, but I credit our staff for that success, Kittelson said. The cooks learned how to cook bugs, the servers have to work with our guests on them, and the managers have to bear the biggest burden when it comes to that. I'm curious what that, why did you start that change in the menu and why did you want to go towards bug protein? And then what did that process look like when it was coming to communicating to the managers and the servers on how to sell
Yeah, that was an interesting time, and surprisingly went extremely well, and we were always, daily surprised at how well the crickets actually did sell. And so,
Wow.
Justin Cucci, our founder and owner he was very forward thinking and always wanted to push the
Mm-hmm.
limits of what we did, and seeking out at the time, alternative proteins and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and just really looking at again, holistically, environmental impacts, being able
Mm-hmm.
to, provide high levels of nutrition and protein in a very small footprint. And we
Mm-hmm.
were we were fortunate to be able to cross paths with a woman named Wendy who did have a cricket farm, and that's a funny thing to think about, but it was
uh,
a shipping container that she raised these crickets in. And when it came to what I said about the staff, is they were so bought in.
mm,
The educational process that we went through to make sure that we were, knowing what we were doing with the food, why we were doing it, and what our end goal was, which was again to always serve delicious food, and
mm-hmm.
at the heart think about sustainability and things like that. And again, the managers had to, because not every guest, when they see a taco on a menu, reads all of the ingredients. And believe it
Yeah.
or not,
A lot of the
a few,
time they didn't.
yeah, a few times there was people who were very surprised to see, crickets on their tacos. So
Mm-hmm.
they had to deal with that situation. But it really goes back into, that teamwork, believing in your vision, and working collaboratively to get to the end goal. And I thought that we as a team, and especially the staff day to day that had to do that, did a phenomenal job getting behind it.
Yeah, I think the education piece is so important and explaining how, let's say, beef production is done in the United States and
Yep.
how switching to something like a bug protein can be so beneficial for sustainability and for the customer itself.
Exactly. I mean, we're very fortunate in the United States to be able to, eat the foods that we do, and not the rest of the world, does not. And actually,
Hmm.
bug protein was on the menu globally, and we're one of the few
Yeah.
countries that doesn't do it. So, and really, it was fun for culinary staff ourselves to be able to push those limits, and to be able to really dive into something that made you uncomfortable,
Hmm.
in a lot of ways. And because not everybody thought about it, and how do we make this approachable, that again, always coming back to, we just want to make delicious food that people really enjoy.
Recently, I saw you give
Mm,
a presentation on sustainability within food service design.
mm,
And I was curious, those similar themes I think you've brought over to Ricca that you believed in at Linger and at L5,
mm.
and that creativity. What are you seeing in terms of the world of sustainability for food service design, and how have you brought that over to your current role?
Kitchens and food service areas are the highest energy consumption of any space in a building, both water, gas, and electric, depending on what the systems are. So being able to, have awareness on how to use those energy sources efficiently, find the right equipment and the right design is important. And then,
Mm-hmm.
as we know, in states like California, there's a real push to,
Mm-hmm.
go all electric and use renewable energy sources. So, thinking about it the sense of just trying to do the right things is a good starting point. Like
Hmm.
it's good to use renewable energy, and it's good to find energy efficient equipment. Because as we've talked about, uh, we're in the everybody who's doing their food service is there to make money, and how can we help them, be more efficient with their energy costs and things like that. So it's it's a challenging subject to breach because there's
Hmm.
definitely two sides to this debate, and there's chefs that for example, there's owners who want to go all electric, and there's chefs who say, I just can't cook with induction. I
Yeah.
just can't. I mean, I had that situation come up where a chef wanted to do Northern Italian cooking and wanted to have open burners to toss his pastas. And,
Hmm.
it was just a real deal breaker. So navigating those situations and finding the win-win for everybody is
Hmm.
challenges that I love doing, and being able to find the right solutions for everybody is a really great task to be challenged with.
Yeah, I think that was going to lead right into my next question, and especially you from the chef's perspective and the food service design perspective. How do you sell an all-electric kitchen? How do you
Yeah.
cross that barrier? And I think a lot of it is education, but how do you do that?
Well, I'll tell you, when I was in the whites, wearing my
Hmm.
whites, if somebody would have tried to bring in, induction burners, I would have, just said, hey, there's the door or whatever. I mean, we didn't, we really didn't consider it until we actually got our first all electric griddle that
Hmm.
was amazing. One of the signature dishes at Linger was a masala dosa that we cooked on a griddle, and it was always gas. Um, one of our rep friends came in and told us about this equipment, and we gave it a shot. And believe it or not, the performance was better.
Mm,
The ease of cleaning was better. The cooks liked using it better. So
interesting.
yeah, I was definitely a naysayer until I actually looked around and looked at how many induction burners we had everywhere to, help do more prep in areas that didn't have hoods and things like that. So I think what I really try to focus on is performance,
Hmm.
letting you know that you're going to have very high performing equipment. You're going to have
Mm,
very efficient equipment. Um, I do like to remind chefs when they bring it up that all the Michelin star restaurants over in Europe and Spain and things like that, generally we're all electric kitchens.
oh, wow.
They yeah, so the induction and all electric kitchens have been very popular for years
Hmm.
before that. So um, again, it's dealing with the psychology of the heat and giving them great solutions for what their concerns are and educating them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that learning curve could definitely be intimidating from
Mhm.
a chef and learning how to change your style of cooking to going towards an induction.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, another point is it's just not going to be as hot. You're going to be in
Yes.
more comfortable in your day to
Yeah.
day. So I,
Yeah.
I'm for
Yeah.
from the food service design side, all for the
Yeah.
all electric kitchens, but I can't understand the problems
Yeah.
there.
Well, working, in food service is challenging. The day to day of, being concerned if all your cooks are going to show up, if the dishwasher is going to call out, or,
Mm,
is the dishwasher going to break, or what piece of equipment's going down tonight? We're, going into a busy service. Having things predictable and reliable is super important. And
mm,
so gas is easy. It's there, and there everybody's grown up on it. So it is uncomfortable to go that way. But the world is changing. The regulations are going to be changing, and you can see certainly the industry moving that way. The
mm-hmm.
manufacturers are responding to it with a lot of all electric equipment. The automation is going up, and ventless technology is there as well. So it's moving that way. We need to respond and be able to be educated and provide our clients with the right solutions.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of some of the struggles of being a chef about your dishwasher calling out if a piece of equipment's going to fail.
Mhm.
This made me, what are some of the similarities and some of the differences between running a kitchen and running your studio here at Ricca?
It's very, very similar in a lot of ways. It starts with certainly the leadership part.
Mm,
Still very much translates. Whether it's a smaller studio or a larger restaurant, you still have to be a dependable, inspiring leader who comes in
mm,
and hopefully motivates people to do their best. And
yeah.
again, that's what I hope to do. And then we're just really affecting whether we call them clients, end users, the guest. We're still affecting somebody at the end of the day with the work that we're doing. And
Hmm.
um, the whether it's the guest or our clients, restaurants depend on uh, repeat business. We as food service design consultants certainly depend on repeat business. So it's making
Hmm.
sure that we're always taking care of our clients. We're exceeding their expectations. We're great to work with and want them coming back to us because we did such a great job. Very similar
Hmm.
to what you're doing in food service. You want your guests coming back. So I look at it in that way, and also what I discussed earlier of still affecting a well-designed facility is going to make sure that food quality is high, that the working
Hmm.
environment is great, and that at the end of the day, people are happy working in there. And so that's I still get to do that from this seat.
Yeah, we're still in the business of hospitality, no matter
Right,
on
right.
which side of the kitchen you're on. We're still
Yeah,
in that business.
and that has served me well. That hospitality mentality. It has caused me to certainly overpromise sometimes because I want to get things done on
Understandably.
the fly, and our business takes time, and you have to break things out in phases, and you can't always turn things around as fast as just getting that steak refired. So.
What made you want to get into the business of hospitality initially? What made you want to start becoming a chef? Uh, when you were
Yeah.
beginning your career, what were you looking forward to and what were you expecting?
Well, I think like a lot of people who get into the food service industry, I started really as kind of my first job. Like I was a young person trying to earn money when I was either, in high school or in college. And the restaurant
Hmm.
industry just was one of those ones that was approachable for somebody who, was trying to work. And I just really loved it.
Mm.
And I was good at it. I found something that I had a natural ability for, and I could see my path moving forward. Certainly in the beginning, it was about finding, stable work and
Yep.
just an environment that I liked doing. But then I really fell in love with cuisine and really fell in love with food and understanding, our food system, where our food comes from, how it affects our bodies, and just really building, beautiful food. And I certainly credit my time at Blackbird with that.
Mm.
I mean, certainly it had begun before that, but working for Paul and that just amazing team that was there for so long, really pushed that to the next level. So.
Yeah, and speaking of your time at Blackbird,
Mhm.
as we all know that you were a sous chef, while there, the kitchen or Paul earned a James Beard Award as well as a Michelin star at
Mhm.
Blackbird. What differences did you see in the way that kitchen was run comparatively to other restaurants that really gave it that step above to earn those awards?
Yeah. Well, that was a golden time in the restaurant age, the early 2000s. It was the explosion of the Food Network, the farm to table restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago was just one of the premier food cities in the world, still is, of course. But Paul was and still is, a true mentor to me. He's somebody that I learned so much about, life, about the business, and I think most importantly how you treat people, um,
Mm.
and and ultimately that was. what I think the success of Blackbird was certainly the cuisine drove things. I mean, the search for the best local ingredients, everything was farm raised and the best of the best, and then getting people in there who were truly passionate and caring. He always had a saying that happy people make happy food,
Mm,
and I always think about that. When you're trying to lead people and you're trying to do great things. I mean, certainly there's a time to drive and time to push, but people need to enjoy what they're doing, and I think
mm,
that was important. And then certainly his ability to network and be a person that other chefs liked and wanted to be around. I mean, that was. He was just a good person, and then of course,
mm.
his other partners, Donnie and Eddie and Rick, I mean, they were just good people, and they uh, always thought about doing the right things. So,
What was your most embarrassing moment as a chef?
oh gosh, just to pick one of those.
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
one of I'm sure the many.
Well, yeah, I can go back to what was both embarrassing but also triumphant at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So when I was working at this great restaurant called Tapawingo in northern Michigan, we did a annual festival called the Festival Gourmet, and it was just a great event down in Traverse City that brought in
I love
artists and
Traverse City.
yeah, and
Yeah.
really high profile chefs, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do an event, and um, I got the distinction of being able to follow up after Mario Batali went,
Oh,
and
wow.
I, being kind of new to the chef game, decided that I was going to do this extremely complex rabbit roulade dish that I did not bring pre-cooked
Mm,
and had to serve about 350 people while doing a demo for a kitchen that was not, let's just say it wasn't quite hooked up and maybe the equipment didn't work quite right. So
okay.
here I am doing my biggest event at the time for a large crowd, just going after, one of the probably the most high profile chefs in America at that time.
Yep.
And I am just bombing. I mean, the equipment doesn't work. I can't even sear anything. I have raw rabbit everywhere, and
It's stressing me out thinking about it. I can feel that.
I was going down for sure. And I had a moment where I thought, do I just walk off this stage? Do I just walk off? And I turned around and I said, to myself, nope, I can't do that. And so I went back and decided that I was going to just make this happen. And I started, uh, you know, making jokes and talking about the history of rabbits and why we use them
Hmm.
and what I was doing. And I kind of just essentially took away from what was happening, like that this kitchen wasn't working, that I was not able to cook the food, but I turned it around and made it so educational and again just kind of had to laugh at myself throughout the process. And afterwards, quite a few people came up to me and said, "Wow, you just really pulled that through what would have been a hard time." And funny enough, Mario Batali came up to me and he said, "See why I only do simple dishes in these demos? That's why, never do what you just did." And I was like, "Yes, chef." So,
Yeah, that's a lesson learned for sure.
yeah, yeah,
I think that brings you back to, I mean, you brought your personality back into it. You brought it back to the experience of the end user, the people watching the demo, and you just made sure that they're having a good time. Like you're speaking to
yeah.
them like a person.
Well, yeah, and honestly, that presentation side of it was something that becomes so valuable in what we do in food service consultant is we have to be client facing so much,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the position that I'm in, going out and trying to win new clients, trying to win projects, trying to educate people through the lunch and learns and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
little did I know that that digging deep and having to uh, find another person sometimes to take you through. I bring that to the table sometimes when I need to. So
Yeah, that's understandable. I can imagine maybe bringing a design to the table and having it like, hey, this isn't what we were thinking about the direction going, and having to pivot on the moment. I'm sure that is applicable to today as well.
Oh yeah, that was a big one of my first lessons. I don't know if you know this, but chefs can have a reputation of having a big ego and maybe
I've
always
heard.
thinking thinking that everything they do is right. And certainly when it came to cuisine and developing dishes, I was it was great at our group. We were very collaborative and sought a lot of input. But you do want things your way, and you do think that
Hmm.
you're right. And I really had to open that up when it came to design because um, I remember the first time that somebody said this isn't what I want, and I just walked away like, wow, how wrong is that guy? I mean,
Yeah.
what's wrong with him? You don't put that there. And you have to really, at the end of the day, remember that you are there to help them be successful. And maybe they have different, every food service operation is going to have different needs that they want. So
Hmm.
being able to work with people and then also having the courage to be a good guide for them and say, hey, have you thought that through? Or, you're really pushing a critical kitchen space to the back. They're going to have
Mm.
to take these steps. So it's finding that balance of
Hmm.
being a good consultant, but then also helping them develop, ultimately the design that they are looking for. So
Yeah, I think it takes, I mean, it's humbling and it takes a lot of humility to be able to show not only your creations as a chef, but your design as a food service design consultant.
mhm.
And it's really like you're bringing your time, your heart and soul to the table, and then saying like, "Hey, how's this?"
Yeah,
And so I think it's great to be able to have that level of humility and take that ego and take a step back, but also to stand your ground when you're like, hey, we are the professionals. We believe this shouldn't be next. And
yeah.
having that balance, I think, is very important. I'm sure from your time as a chef has served you well here.
Yeah, it has. At the end of the day, we're there to serve their interest and to make sure that they have the right facility and that it's well planned and well designed and making sure that they're not making uh, like I said, when they maybe ask for something that isn't what we would call industry best practice, or maybe it's
Hmm.
going against some codes and things like that, and being responsible that way, but also doing that in a way that is with positive intent
Hmm.
and solution orientated. Those are all critical things. And then at the
Hmm.
end of the day, it's important. We are in the relationship business, and we want to be somebody that our clients and culinary teams want to work with and
Yeah.
be like that was a great experience to work with Ricca and their teams. So always keeping that at top of mind.
Now I wanted to ask you kind of a two-parter. Um, and the first part of the question is, what was your first creative dish as a chef, and how did others feel about it? And then I also wanted to ask you maybe about your first creative design here at Ricca Design Studios and ask you about those two experiences. But I'll start with the first one. So, what was your first creative dish as a chef, and how did other people feel about it?
Mhm. Yeah, I think I would have to go back to, when I was in culinary school and I was working at a restaurant, and I remember the sous chef at the time coming to me and saying, "Hey, we need a lunch special today," and going like, "What? You need a you need a special?" And
Me?
and and I think it was something like a seared piece of trout with a some sort of beurre blanc sauce, very, very
Mm,
classic and basic of what I was learning at the time in culinary school. But it, certainly was not the first or last time that I've been put on the spot and had to make something happen and being challenged and being uncomfortable, if you will.
mm-hmm.
I think that's, as we all know, that's how you grow, being uncomfortable. So, um, while I might not remember all of the specifics, I remember it was a trout dish. I think it was a maybe a grapefruit for blanc or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But I do remember that the staff liked it. They sold well, and it did well. So I was
Great.
um, got through that. Luckily with my time here at Ricca, I was given the benefit to learn. Certainly our what we do here when we're providing kitchen designs and bar designs and things like that, they're things that are going to be built and they're going to be long lasting and they have to be right.
Mm,
You don't have a lot of opportunity for error or learning. So I got to start small. We're
mm,
actually doing a punch in a couple of weeks on this project, but it was really for a small school that was uh, they were really just kind of retherming food and things like that. So it was just a small rewarming kitchen with a ventless oven and things like that. But
mm-hmm.
again, it sometimes those small spaces are the hardest to think about because you want to overcomplicate them. You want to put in all this equipment, but they just don't have the budget and you don't have the space and you're trying to put in all the good principles of design into that small space. So again, I'm excited to see that one come to
Mm-hmm.
being opened and how
Mm-hmm.
it's going to serve those students and the teams that are there. But again, at the time, it was a challenge, and now obviously designing much larger spaces.
Yes. Cool. Yeah. I was talking to Ryan about sometimes the smallest spaces are almost the most difficult because you're given such a small square footage and they're like, we need this whole list of things to fit into a small square footage, and
Yeah.
finding those intricacies within the can be more difficult sometimes in a larger space is all I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. I mean, small spaces, renovations, low budgets, things like that, the things that we're challenged with daily. But I learned very, very early on in my experience here with Ricca and in this business, if you're not here to solve problems, you're definitely
Mm,
you're in the wrong industry. So we're that's what we're here to do. We're here to coordinate. We're here to make sure that things get that we're very solution oriented and very
hmm.
collaborative. Mhm.
Well, I did reach out to Phil, and he
Uh,
wanted me to ask you, how many times did Phil's wife Kelly try to make a reservation at L5?
Well, always happy to do it, Phil, and I certainly understand why she loves that restaurant, but I think only twice, and it
Okay.
gives me a great opportunity to reach out to my good friends back there at L5. So anytime,
I haven't been there yet, so I might be
yeah,
reaching out soon as well. I might be taking a
yeah,
piece of advice
yeah,
from Kelly.
yeah. No, absolutely, anytime.
Great. Well, I have one last question for you, and it's a question I like to ask our principals. At Ricca, our motto is creating what's next.
Mhm.
What does that mean to you, and how do you incorporate that into your day-to-day work?
Yeah, creating what's next. I think what it means to me, and I've reflected on this a lot recently, because thinking about innovation and what to
Mm-hmm.
do, it really is for me, meaning I'm not just thinking about what I read. Certainly that's important, staying up on all the industry literature and technology of what's going on, but what
Mm-hmm.
do I think is needed in a kitchen? I worked
Mm-hmm.
in them for 20 plus years. What am I looking for to make food service better, to make
Mm-hmm.
food better? So I try to keep that in mind. I mean, I do that when I'm designing spaces. I very much visualize what it's like for me to be working in those kitchens, to be standing at that station. And that's what I like to think about it. Like
Wow.
how can we certainly honor the tradition and there's certainly a formula to successful design and
Yep.
not deviating from that so that you're just being funky to be funky, but like thinking about what the needs are of the people who are working there, and of course the guests who are coming in or the students who are coming in, what are they going to be looking for, and
Mm.
trying to be that thought leader and try to be the person who's thinking forward, not just certainly paying attention to the present, but also what's next. And so that's what it means to me.
Mm. Well, that's the last question I had for you. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today, and I really look forward to seeing your career blossom in the food service design world. I'm excited to see your growth and see where you go.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And any chance that I can talk about food and food service design is a great time spent. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
You too.